Welcome to
Music Sluts,
where we talk about music and specifically an album that is neither new nor particularly relevant. It's just something that we like, and we're going to tell you why, right?
Yep.
The way we're going to kind of break this down is we're going to talk a little bit about our experience with it, just kind of like personal experience with the album. And we're going to talk a little bit about the sort of, musicality, like how the album is sort of made based on what we know about it and understand about it. And then we'll kind of wrap it up in our own special way. The first album that we're going to talk about is IDLES' Crawler. We appreciate a lot of different types of music. And this just was, when we started making the show, one of the albums that was playing in the house a fair amount.
Yeah.
Kind of coming out of, I guess we could start there. When did we start? How did we hear about this? When did that happen?
So we stumbled upon the album Crawler by IDLES through the delightful series From the Basement, which if you haven't checked out From the Basement, check out From the Basement. It's rad. But
I'll put some links in there. It's wonderful
love
as a show.
From the Basement. Yeah, we love it because we both like live music a lot. That was something we connected about originally. Love live music.
And also From the Basement does that thing where it sort of gives you an indication of what an artist's process is like, because you're seeing them in kind of a, I won't say stripped down, but you see, they're doing like a recording set.
Yeah.
We saw From the Basement.
It popped up on From the Basement, and From the Basement was enough of a yes for us to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think specifically for this album, that introduction is really perfect.
Coming to an artist, especially a musician, through something live, where they're not being aided by a lot, gives you a much more like raw, immediate version of what you're going to get on albums.
Well, it's what we both love about music, is that ability to use a medium. My favorite music is music that feels like a pretty direct expression of an impulse.
Yeah.
So there is always that live quality about music that I end up loving.
Is there anything like contextually about the album, like experience-wise, that you can kind of pinpoint?
I think this popped up at such a specific time in my life / our life where there's shit we have to do right now. This is also sort of adulthood. We're doing shit, and it's not always pleasant or happy.
Yeah.
A lot of it distinctly isn't pleasant or happy. So the leftover feelings of sort of like, having to move through stuff you kind of don't want to move through. For me personally, I'm not like a super, I don't know if you know this about me, I'm not like a super sunny, peppy kind of person, but I need to be motivated. Now that I've said it, right, put it into words. But I want to be motivated to do things. I want to get things done if I have to do them. So I think the reason why I immediately latched onto it was just because it feels very true to this phase of my life, of sort of like being an adult with a list of responsibilities, but still wanting to have a good time and laugh a little bit and like do the hard shit without letting it get me down. What about for you, though?
Yeah, I think obviously shared life, so
we talk about our lives as though we have separate lives.
Right. In my life, we contextually we kind of had to suddenly move for me back to Wisconsin because of kind of a family tragedy situation, and so it was sort of a period rife with a lot of change, which can be really good.
Yeah.
And then a lot of responsibilities that are always just intrinsically difficult, right? Yeah. And, one of the reviews from like Pitchfork or something like this, and sorry if you're the reviewer and watching this, but if that did happen, they mentioned something about it being kind of like, there's like a tone of like it was cheesy or something like that. I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think it's a little bit, it's more the mundanity of like moving forward and still having a little bit of life left in you even if things are hard. Especially the opening track, which I really love, was sort of something about the lead singer's struggling with addiction, which I think the music reviewer was like, just another addict, like talking about getting through it or whatever. And I understand the sort of like
12-steppy
kind of
stuff.
but I actually didn't feel that way. And I think what I got experientially from it is that that little bit of spunk and energy that you retain even when you're kind of beat to hell.
Yeah.
And how that feels like such a good microcosm of like adulthood in general, is that the good times are good and you learn to enjoy those more, but maybe you also sort of learn to smile at the really nasty stuff.
Smile, make a joke, think about a bigger picture, anything sort of to get through the thing that you don't want to like sit in.
Yeah.
You
don't want to sit in it.
You want to be on the other side.
Yeah, it's not like
of it.
It's not like the album doesn't like lay back and be
No.
like, oh, it was so hard for me. It's more like fuck this noise. Like let's try to do something. What does this album do for you? I mean, what do you think about when you kind of have the lived experience with listening to this album?
Yeah, that was something that struck me immediately when we watched the From the Basement and carried through to listening to the full record. I do find it to be a really kinetic, like a darkly kinetic album, which is right up my alley. Mm-hmm. The first thing that stuck out to me is the driving tempo. I think it's a great driving album. I think it's a great album for when you want to get shit done. It's a great album for when you're in motion, but not dancing necessarily.
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate an album that you can just sit down and listen to. But the other kind of album that I really like is one that, especially for someone who's so reluctant to dance in front of people or something like that, not because I can't, but just because I'm very uncomfortable. I won't. But some albums just you can't help moving. And this is definitely one of those albums. It's got some punk roots, obviously,
for sure.
Which I think you would hope that it would feel kind of kinetic. But that's not always true. And so I think that, I agree with you.
If I had to describe what this album is, I would really call it a musical chimera, because it definitely is punk. It's got that hard punk, fun punk edge to it, but it's so melodic, and there's so much the melodies are really beautiful and sort of melancholy, and then there's so much of a drive, almost more of a percussive drive than you get in punk music that lends it that little bit of dance.
Right.
You want to get up and punch to it or kick to it or head bob to it. Yeah.
That really dates.
Yeah, you. But the darkness really comes through in a lot of the musical elements too, but it's so counterbalanced with so many other things that it becomes a really rich album, I think.
There are moments that are stripped back enough, which I really like. So it's dense in its mix of things, but not in the overall volume of instruments.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit, it has space in it, which I really, really, I need that a lot of the times to put myself in things, I need a little bit of space. And this album has some nice, voids in it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want an overproduced punk album,
You definitely
I don't. I think musically what I really like about this album too is that, I guess I'll piggyback on myself and talking about the empty space as I am wont to do. I'll piggyback on you. Oh, great. That's a great idea. I would love it if you did. I have a lot to say. In regards to the sort of sparsity of the album, I think certain instruments like driving drums and sort of distorted, fuzzy guitars and rhythmic guitars, if they're layered too much, you lose the smack of the drums and the reverb of the room.
It turns more into a wave of sound.
Yeah, and so I think that space in this album makes the vocal performance really come out, and the drums and the sort of rhythmic elements of it come out, which I think is where like the makes you want to move with it. And so I guess the other thing I would highlight about it musically is I think the vocal performance is pretty special, and what I mean by that is everything doesn't have to sound beautiful to be a great vocal performance, right? It really has to do with the intent of the piece itself, right? So in this case, I think he's technically quite skillful. He's one of those lead singers that I envy.
Deceptively harder things than you think he's doing.
Yeah, he's doing nuanced things that not
yeah.
everyone could do. And he also has that gift that I'm wildly jealous of, where he can just like sound, gravelly voice, and maybe he blows out his voice all the time, but it sounds really great and he has a ton of character in his voice. I think more important, sometimes singers, especially in recordings, because they're being overproduced or whatever and told to do something a certain way, they lose that like immediacy that I love so much with music, where they feel more like a conduit of something happen, or their voice is another instrument in the mix rather than somebody being indicative of what they're trying to say to you. They're just doing that thing.
He is such a conduit. Like, he is one of those musical artists I'm always so jealous of, who it feels like he flips a switch and is in like direct connection with some ancient human impulse to just scream, you know? I want to ask what your favorite, if you had to isolate a favorite musical element of this album, what would it be for you?
When I think about the album, I'm thinking about how his voice and the drums work together. The vocals match the kinetic energy of the drums.
Yeah, the fucking drums on this
you love the
album.
Drums.
They slap so hard, and I loved
good.
Getting to watch that drummer
live
first because he looks like exactly what he sounds like. Like he's banging on those drums, and they're so in your face. And I love the sparseness of the album that you talked about in connection with how fucking hard the drums hit, because that is what makes it feel like getting punched in the face with this album.
There's like an immediacy to the album that's not, I don't know, I don't find it on a lot of albums, and they're usually some of my favorites.
Yeah. All art is about perspective, so I really love when you feel like you've just found such a specific, unique perspective.
So the way we're going to wrap this up is we're not gonna, there's no thumbs up, thumbs down.
Nope.
Everything we review is going to be thumbs up in some way or another. We like it.
We're only
not
going
to
talk
share
about
with
it if
you
we like
shitty albums.
Yep.
Why would we do that? So there's no rating or anything like that. Contextually, who might like this album, right? So for us, since we have lots of people inside of each of us, but you know, in whatever way you choose to take that.
Yeah.
You know, what part of us sort of loves this album. Yeah. And I feel like I've got like two parts of me, but do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Sure. I would say I've got like three distinct parts of me that sort of combine to make the corner of myself that
who's
this album
like sitting
speaks
down
to.
Listening to this
Yeah,
album.
and it's a weird combo.
Okay.
Aggro, emo, corpo.
Angry, emo, corpo, you. Okay. Hard to follow. I didn't label mine so succinctly. No, I'm just kidding. The beat poet, varsity football playing old man.
Of you loves
of
this
me.
album. Yeah. Have you listened to IDLES, Crawler?
Yeah, tell us
in
the comments. We want to know how you feel about it, if you've listened to it. If you listen to it after seeing this, definitely want to hear your impressions.
For sure.
If you hate it, I really want to hear your impressions. And if you're like, I don't care about what you have to say and I won't listen to it, then don't comment. Even though the algorithm says do comment, I don't care. Don't. Have something to say.
Yeah.
Experience something first before you go mouthing off about it. There'll be hopefully affiliate links so you can buy it. I don't know how to. We don't know how to do anything on YouTube, so I think that might be something that's in there.
Maybe there's an affiliate link down there. Maybe there isn't.
Check it out. You should check out the links we decided to put in there, because we don't even know what they are right now.
We don't know. That's for future us to decide.
That's for future us to decide.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time
on
MUZAK Sluts.